On the 23rd of November 2009, the universe was 1.8 meters long by 60 centimeters wide. That was the size of my universe. I couldn't move around or use my arms and legs anymore. I'd just gotten out of hospital and was now completely quadriplegic. Actually, I was turned over to face the other side of the bed every 2 hours. So you could say the universe was 2.2 meters by 1.5 meters wide. It is a king-size bed after all. I think you'll agree, that's still a really small universe. After a few years, I got a button I could click with one finger, and I'd hacked on Dragon Dictate enough that I could push my world out to include the internet. Things had got a lot better. So then, with a bit more work and a lot of crafty scheming, I got my hands on a wheelchair and a hoist and a sling and some people to put me in it, and my universe was now 3.6 meters by 3 meters. The wheelchair doesn't fit through my bedroom door, so it doesn't expand the universe by as much as I'd hoped. But I could sit up, I could see out of the window, and I could now see the little tree by our front door. That's just my helping hands there. Then, one day, I was sitting in my 3.6 meter universe, plus internet, when I saw a TED Talk by Raffaello D'Andrea, and he was showing the athletic abilities of these tiny little quadcopters, and I thought, intergalactic travel. So I emailed him and said, can I have a go of your drones, please? Can I? And he said, no, you can't. Right. But then he said, I know a man who might be able to help you out. And that's how my universe got about 3,000 miles bigger. This is Professor Chad Jenkins of Brown University. Robots are awesome. Every week or so, I log into a small laptop at the Jenkins Robotics Lab at Brown University. It's connected to a drone, and I fly this thing around the lab trying not to crash. So obviously I crash into absolutely everything. But what is a drone? Drones come in all shapes and sizes and do all sorts of different jobs. We've got flying drones, walking drones, driving drones, and even squishy wiggling under the door drones, which frankly give me the creeps. Ugh. You think of drones as being these worker bees, doing the dull, dangerous and dirty jobs. But a drone's really an extensor, a limb, reaching out into some place that my body can't go. The drone I've been flying is called the Parrot AR drone. You can buy it in a shop for a couple of £100, and it's basically a big toy that you can fly with your phone. But thanks to research by Professor Chad Jenkins, it's possible to control the parrot with JavaScript, which means all sorts of different interfaces can now be written for them. I go careening around the halls of Brown University. I go flying through hoops, knocking beach balls off podiums, and generally harassing John and Alice around the laboratory. This is John and Alice. They definitely suffer for their art. It's amazing to fly when you can't move your own body. I really can't describe it. Professor Jenkins' lab also has one of these. This is a beam telepresence robot, which costs a little bit more than a drone. Well, it costs a lot more. It costs about $18,000. It's like an iPad stuck on a remote-controlled car by way of these two weedy little poles. I don't think it's a description they're going to thank me for. To control the beam, I open up an application on my Mac, and once connected, this is what I can see on my screen. It's got these two high-def cameras. The first is facing straight forward, so I can see what's ahead of me, and the second is pointing downwards, so I can see the floor and it stops me running over college students' little toes. Through the beam, I can walk around. I trundle along the corridors. I can go to the cafeteria. I move around these spaces like I'm actually there. I can turn round to look at somebody. Can you imagine? I haven't been able to do that for a very long time. I've been in this one small room for such a long time, but with telepresence, I'm a couple of clicks away from pretty much anywhere. The first conversation I had with another person, I don't include doctors, outside of this bedroom was with John, who was in another country. I looked across the loading dock at the subway, across from the university, and it struck me that scale is a very difficult thing to judge. It really is different for everybody. On that day, I went 3,000 miles without moving. Did I move? Was I in Providence, Rhode Island, or was I here in Manchester? I really don't know. I can't use a keyboard, a mouse, or a touchscreen. So to drive these robots, I have all this cobbled together kit. I use a Tracker Pro and a little reflective sticker stuck on my glasses, which tracks my head movements. My head movements are then turned into cursor movements, so if I look up at the top left-hand corner of the screen, that's where my cursor will move to. I also use a big red switch called a buddy button. The buddy button can trigger mouse clicks, or it can trigger scan panels, or loads of different things really. I also have this headset for drag and dictate, which enables me to speak to my computer. So there's all this extra stuff I need just to use one computer. To use your computer, for instance, I'd have to start all over from the beginning again. To use most robots, I'd have to start from the very beginning each time. Henry, flying the same drone from the same lab, has a completely different pile of cobbled together kit. Even though we're both quadriplegic, we have radically different accessibility challenges. I speak commands to my computer to trigger scripts and macros I've written to do normal things like pause iTunes or answer the phone. Henry can't speak at all, so my voice-operated computer would be completely useless to him. Once you get to this level of disability, everyone is so physically different, you can't make useful generalizations. The drone we fly in Professor Jenkins' lab, though, is controlled through a website, which means all I need is Firefox. I can already use Firefox. I've climbed that physical mountain. Using a browser as the interface lowers the barrier. It's really vital to design out as many barriers as possible and lower the rest as much as we can. I mentioned Henry just now, who flies the drones in the same lab as me. Henry Evans founded Robots for Humanity. He had a stroke when he was 40, and he's now mute and quadriplegic. So, like me, he was pretty motivated to expand his horizons. He collaborates with robotics teams, developing tools and promoting projects to help severely disabled people go places and do things, like visit museums via telepresence robots. I went to the Museum of Australia last month, by the way, through using their robot. It was awesome. Canberra is about 10,500 miles away from here. So now I've gone about as far as it's possible to go away from this bedroom before I'd have to start coming back. Henry collaborates with Georgia Tech professor Charlie Kemp, using the Willow Garage PR2 robot as a body surrogate, as well as Chad Jenkins at Brown flying drones. At Brown, Professor Chad Jenkins, Dr. John Ratey, Alex Lux-Fauzi and others are currently creating the Empower Rosbridge project. Like all good academic projects, we have an impossibly large acronym. Excellent. The project extends something called the robot operating system. So, a lot like the operating system that runs those smartphones in your pockets, Empower, with the robot operating system, aims to make physical robots controllable over the internet using ordinary web browsers. This means that the barrier to entry for controlling very complex robotics is reduced dramatically. You do know how to use Firefox, right? Have I mentioned that robots are awesome? Okay, so this talk is supposed to be about adversity, but it's blatantly been about robots so far. Sorry about that. Adversity is kind of a tricky subject though. I don't know that it's really very useful to talk about adversity in some general, oh my god, the pain type of way. It's more useful to talk about specific, concrete problems and figure out specific, concrete ways to solve them. Dealing with adversity is honestly just problem solving. Forget about all the rest of it. It's really just a series of tasks. I'm here, and I want to get there. So what steps do I need to take? I do this with everything. Yeah, in our house we write use cases for absolutely everything. Getting dressed, getting out of bed, everything. All subject to rapid revision, of course. But yeah, it's not really possible to live spontaneously when you have to schedule a team of staff to put your boots on. So I have a lot of practice with this, and I suppose that's what's meant by adversity. But everyone can break down problems in this way, and everybody can try to leave some room for different approaches, for the solutions you haven't thought of, to the problems you haven't yet imagined. The parrot drone was never designed to help me escape this room, but it left just enough wiggle room so that I could use it for that purpose. Well done then. I can't turn the lights on myself, so if it gets dark and there's nobody about, I just have to sit here in the dark until somebody gets back, which is rubbish. So I found these light bulbs, LifeX, that are connected via Wi-Fi, so I can turn them on with an app, which is great and all, except the app is fixed sideways on my iPad, and I can't turn the iPad round myself physically, so I can't use the app. Yeah, my whole life is like this. But you know what? It's okay they didn't think about me, because these light bulbs are scriptable. They left the door open just a crack, so I can write some JavaScript to turn the lights on when the sun goes down. When you lower the barriers, even just by a little, you allow people to solve their own problems, and that's how the light gets in. A lot of people talk about adversity in terms of dreams, desire, the wanting of things, imagination. You just have to dream big and work hard and you will overcome. But that's not reality. Some scales are fixed. I really do have limits. It didn't matter how much I wanted to get out of that bed, and I really, really wanted to get out of that bed. I couldn't just do it by wanting. I needed a hoist. It doesn't matter how much I want this chair to go out of this room. It just doesn't fit through the door. That's it. 3 inches is always going to be 3 inches. And it's a lot, really, about cold, hard cash. I can't afford a new wheelchair. They cost about £15,000. But just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you can't do anything. I can't go out through the door, but I can go out into the world through the internet. I can buy a drone for £300, and I can make the lights turn on at night. Solutions can be twisty and surprising. The universe can expand in unexpected ways. Thank you. So, where do I go from here? Well, inspired by Henry Evans, who founded Robots for Humanity 5 years ago, I've launched Robots for Humanity Europe. We're going to put roboticists and disabled people together who, I think, have a profound insight into the possibility of the extensible body. Isolation is the worst thing about severe disability. Actually, no, that's not right. Having eczema and not being able to scratch it is the absolute worst thing. Okay, isolation is the second biggest challenge of severe disability. We are each shoved into our own miniature universes, and it's really hard to get out by yourself. But I think it's a problem we can solve. By hacking together toy planes and web browsers, by getting people online and talking to each other, by finding doors we can open one way or another. I think it's a problem we can find solutions for. Just think, once Henry Evans got access to email, he started Robots for Humanity. It meant I could collaborate with him and the folks at Brown University. It meant I could learn to fly. If we can do these things with just email, imagine what we can do with a host of flying, driving, and yeah, even wiggling under the door robots. Just imagine. And if you can imagine something really cool, email me. Thank you.